not been paying attention the last couple of years, we do a thing every year, right around the time of the anniversary of the station nightclub fire, where we pay tribute to the late, great Dr. Metal, who, of course, we lost that night, and pay tribute to all those that we lost that night. We had friends, family, loved ones lost that night at a show, something that any one of us could have been a part of. And it's just, we used to do a whole thing where we did an anniversary show for the Metal Zone, and we kind of just turned it into this instead. And we've got a lot of old school, what we call sweepers and IDs from back when Doc was doing the show, so we get to play that stuff. Plus, we have a lot of great artists that took the time to say some good stuff about Doc. Also, some of my fellow HJY DJs also have said some really awesome things about Doc that we're going to play tonight, too. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of sadness because we miss Doc, of course, but it's also about celebrating the man, the legacy he left behind, and, of course, listening to some awesome hard rock, heavy metal like we do every Saturday night. It's all about keeping that alive. So we're going to get to it right now with the uncomparable James Debris from Dream Theater talking about Doc and what he meant to the band and to the metal community. It's 94 HJY, it's the Metal Zone.
The great thing about Doc is, as much as he got to know us on a more personal level, was that whenever we hit the stage, he was out there as big a fan as anyone else in the room or at the venue. So that was the amazing part of it, is that he really thoroughly enjoyed the show, enjoyed the music. And, I always respected his taste, because all the bands that he was into, to my knowledge, were bands that stood for, originality and integrity, and it really had a lot to say for the guy, for himself. He was a rare breed and greatly missed.
4, maybe 5 years under the wing of Dr. Metal, doing basically just helping him do the show. I worked doing stuff for our AM station at the same time Doc would be doing the Metal Zone, and we became friendly. And he taught me a lot of great stuff. We had a lot of fun doing the show. And the great thing about doing the show with Doc was, when we'd play songs, in between, he would be telling me all these crazy stories. He had already been doing the show for a good 10, 12 years when I got here, and he had all these great stories, especially because back in the day, there used to be these heavy metal conventions back in L.A. that they would actually send all the DJs to get free trips out there, and you meet everybody. It was crazy. Everyone from Sabbath to Fear Factory, and he had all these great stories. And it was just amazing to hear them, especially the way Doc would tell them. Anybody who listened to the show back in the day knew that Doc was a character, and him telling a story was always a great thing. One of those times, he was hearing the story behind this ID right here. So Doc would meet a band, he'd do an interview. At the end, he'd say, "Hey, can you guys do an ID for me for the show?" And he had a little script or something like that. This, though, is Eric Adams from Manowar. It's one of his favorites. If you actually heard the original version of this, at the end, after he's done, you would hear Doc just giggle a little bit and go, cool, because that's the only reaction you can have after hearing this. Here it is. Manowar right now. It's HJY.
94 HJY. Dr. Metal's got it happening, man, with the Metal Zone. This is Eric Adams from Manowar. Yeah!
From Bobby Blitz from Overkill, talking a little bit about Doc and some good memories that he had from back in the day, meeting him a couple times and what he meant to the metal community, followed by their latest Mean Green Killing Machines, the Metal Zone.
So this was about a guy who built relationships over the years, and quite simply, that's missed when you're in a position like myself, who will have the opportunity to come to Providence again and not be able to see this guy, because he meant a lot to the band. The only thing that really surpassed his commitment to what he did was his love of this, and that's really cool to see in this day and age, that someone is only loves it more than they're committed to it, and that's a motivation for him continuing on and playing the metal all these years for the people out of HJY.
Maybe share some fun stories. Right now, I got my afternoon partner in crime right here talking about Doc and a little story. It's Doug Palmieri. I'm going to follow that up with some Creator and latest from them, Gods of Violence. It's HJY.
It's funny, the first time I met Doc, I grew up in the same area he grew up in. I was friendly with his brother. He's a few years older than I am. I met him at Rhode Island College. He was actually selling 94 HJY, ad time on HJY. And I saw him. He was wearing a suit, and he had short hair. He had just graduated from Rhode Island College. And I don't think he might have been doing the Metal Zone at that point in time. But, the neighborhood guys knew him. So I met him back then and then became real close to him over the years as a part-time guy at HJY. I used to fill in for him, see him a lot on the weekends. I remember the time he said he poked a CD player. We had these garbage CD players at the old radio station over in East Providence, and a lot of the time they wouldn't work. So we'd all hit them. You hit them with the heel of your hand or whatever. One night, Doc, he must have punched it because it was like caved in on the side. And when he was approached about it, he said he poked it. I poked it. And and everyone was like, yeah, he poked it. Sure, he poked it. It was obvious he wound up. Doc was a strong kid and caved in the CD player. And I think everyone was kind of happy about it because we hated those CD players. And then later, I remember a great Doc story. We went to go see Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden was playing the Orpheum in Boston, so Doc and I drove up to Boston, and we went to Will Call to pick up the tickets that one of his metal guys, one of the record company guys, was supposed to provide for him. And we got to the Will Call to get the tickets, and they weren't there. And Doc was pissed. He was worked up, man. Lots of cursing coming from Doc that night. And we actually just hung out. We had some beers at one of the local bars, and I think Wild Things with Ned Campbell and Denise Richards was on the TV. So we're in a bar in Boston, like one of these Irish bar rooms, with a bunch of weird dudes watching lesbian erotica, basically, on the TV. And he was just steaming. And I guess a couple of weeks later, he was in New York, and he walked right into the guy's office, went up the stairs, went to him, and started cursing at him and yelling at him for screwing us on the tickets. He was passionate, man. You didn't want to mess with Doc. If you crossed him, it was not good, but there was not a better friend you could have. And, we really missed Doc a great deal here at 94 HGY, and personally as a friend, it's sad that we're